Welcome to episode number 8. My name is Jimmy and I'm coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. Today is Friday, October 19th, and it's Rhinebeck Eve. I'm going to Rhinebeck tomorrow, and I wanted to get something recorded. I don't know how this is going to work out. I wanted to get something recorded. I don't know that I'm going to be able to upload it before Rhinebeck, but some things are going away that I wanted to share before they become gifts. So I thought I would try to get a quick recording before that happened. Anyway, again, my name is Jimmy, and you can follow me on Instagram as JonBoyNY, or you can follow me on Ravelry, again as JonBoyNY, same username. And today I am going to, like I said, I'm going to show you some finished objects, some things that are going away, and I'm going to show you a work in progress that is happening right now, and it is the Stephen West mystery knit along. So I'm going to show you that towards the end of the recording, so that if you don't want to see spoilers, you don't have to watch that, and it's whatever. You don't have to watch anything. But if you don't want to see spoilers, you don't feel like I am ruining the surprise for you if you accidentally see it. But anyway, so some finished objects that I am going to show you. Let's see, I'm going to start with these socks. I showed you these socks in the previous episode. I was working on them as a gift for my roommate's birthday. My roommate's birthday happened at the end of last month. I did finish them on time. I gave them to him on his birthday, and he really liked them. They fit, and I am very happy. So I'm just going to show them to you again. I'm not following a pattern for this, so I will tell you what I did. you know what I'm gonna say about that. I will tell you what I did with them. I cast on the yarn is Felici from Knitpicks, and Stone Harbor, I believe, is the name. If it isn't, I'll correct myself. The heel is a ChileKnitz in her cuddly sock, which is merino nylon. This is the Felici is also merino nylon. And the colorway for the ChileKnitz is gondola. Let's see. I do my socks cuff down towards the toe. So I cast on 72 stitches on a US 0. 72 stitches on a US 0. I did a 2x2 ribbing, did about 24 rows. Then I switched. I do my ribbing on double pointed needles because I get, if I do ribbing on magic loop, I get a pretty bad laddering effect going on. I don't know why, but whatever. So I do the ribbing in 2x2 in double pointed needles. Then I switched to a larger needle, a US1, and that I did with magic loop, and then I worked the leg with this sort of broken rib pattern of 4x2, and I skipped the pattern every other row, so every other row is just straight knitting, and then every other row is the 4x2 sort of broken rib. And because I wanted to preserve the striping, I decided to venture. I usually do the heel flap and gusset, like I did on my Rhinebeck socks in the previous episodes. But I wanted to preserve the striping, so I ventured into a short row, excuse me, a short row heel. But because I know that me and my roommate have rather high instep, I decided to do like a, I guess it would be like a gusset, no heel flap, but it's kind of like a gusset increase, like a little gusset here, and then decrease down. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, so I did a few increases. I think I increased, this was a 72, and I think I increased up to like an 88 stitch count. By the time I got here, I increased every other row, one stitch on each side every other row, and I got to like an 88 count, I think. And then I divided in half. No, I did not divide in half. I kept 36 stitches in one side, and the rest I used for the heel. And then I did a German short row heel, where you do like the decreases down towards 1/3 of the total amount of stitches, and then you go back to increasing back to what you had. And then here I did the decreases back to a 72 foot, and then I worked the sole flat, and I kept the pattern on the top of the foot, and then I did a wedge toe, and then I did a Kitchener seam. I don't know that you can see, but anyway, the socks don't match exactly. They are made from two different balls of yarn, and I did not bother to completely match the socks, so they are pretty similar, but as you can see, the stripes are not exactly matching. So when I did the second sock, just as luck would have it, the very very tip of the toe switched colors, and I had to Kitchener in gray. So, oh well, I don't think my roommate cares. He knows that they're handmade, and he does actually kind of like the imperfections of handmade stuff. So I wasn't stressed, and my roommate could care less. He likes it. He likes that sort of thing. So, so yeah. So these are the socks. They've been blocked. They've been washed. They've been blocked again, so I could show you, and then they'll permanently go to their owner. The next thing I'm going to show you, because it's the last time that I'm going to be able to show you this, is the Zweig that I made for Connie. I finally blocked it, cut the the ends of, and you know, it's finally finished, completely finished, right? And I wanted to show you guys what it looks like before it goes to its new owner, who is Connie. Right, this one I finished back in June, I think. I'm sure that I showed you the finished product back then, but it wasn't blocked. Now it is. So all the stitching is even, and I'm pretty happy with the final result. And so I just wanted to show you that. The next thing that I'm going to show you is my Rhinebeck sweater. And this one I was working on the last episode, and this is the Sipila by Caitlin Hunter. I finished it, I blocked it. I have not, the ends are woven in, but I have not got them yet. I will do that in a little bit. But this is it. So last time I showed you, I had finished the yoke, and I was working on the body. That's the body. I finished the body, and then I picked up the sleeves, and I worked the sleeves and color work, the bottom of the sleeves, and I'm pretty happy. I'm gonna try it on so you can see what it looks like on me. So this is what I'm going to be wearing at Rhinebeck tomorrow. Suns without all these ends. But anyway, it might just be a fashion statement, right? With all these strings attached. That's me. But anyway, let's see. Should I get up? I don't know if you can see. That's what it looks like. The sleeves, right? Anyway, so yeah, things I did. I worked the sweater with ChileKnitz yarns. The blue one is called Blue Jeans, and her cuddly sock base, which is merino nylon. The blue one is called Blue Jeans. The gray one with speckles is called Embers. And I used, for the color work, I used US 5 needles for the body, and the the sleeves where there was no color work. I went down to US 4 needle, and the neckline was kind of too wide for me, so I went up. I did a provisional cast on, and then when I finished the body, I picked up the sleeves from the provisional, I picked up the stitches from the provisional cast on, and I worked the neck a little longer than the pattern suggests. I think I might have overdone a little bit, because it's a little, it's not tight on my neck, but it's a little, the bind off was a little too tight. Maybe I should have bound off a little more loosely, but anyway, I still can get it. I can get it in and out of my head fine. I enjoyed working the color work. I showed you I did the color work with fingers, using each hand to hold the strands. I alternated skeins of the skeins, two different skeins or balls of yarn as I worked the body, because this is hand dyed and I didn't want to have like noticeable color changes or weird pulling. There's a little bit of pulling on this sleeve, and that's the only place where it happened, even though I was alternating. But anyway, I alternated the skeins. The end of the row comes in the back, but I alternated the skeins along the side of the sweater so that it wouldn't be so noticeable, and even if there was like some kind of like, if it was too tight because my tension was weird or something, that it wouldn't be too noticeable. Anyway, I don't know if you can. I actually did some on one side and then I switched and I did some on the other side, but it's not too bad. Anyway, let me take off the sweater. Anyway, so this is the inside of my sweater. Right. And this is what I was talking about. I did the alternating on I need to weave this in. Anyway, I did the alternating on this side and sometimes on that side. I changed the side so that it wouldn't all, just in case I was doing it too tightly, that it wouldn't all just bunch up on one side. So I figured that if I was doing it too tightly, it would just bunch out in a little section and then bunch up in another section on the other side, and maybe that would even it out. Anyway, I also alternated on the sleeves. I don't know if you can tell. Which was a pain in the butt, especially when I was doing the color work and I was alternating skeins of blue, because I didn't want to waste any. I didn't want to cut. But I could have just, by the time of the color work and the sleeves, I could have just cut one ball and continue with the other one, but I didn't want to waste any of my precious ChileKnitz yarns. So, but yeah. So like I said in the previous episode, and Aaron from Fiber Hustle, whom I love their podcast. I think they're hysterical and I love them so much, and I love Aaron. He's a cool dude and I talk to him often. But anyway, last time I said that I did not swatch, and he immediately sent me some hate messages because I always tell him to swatch, but I did not swatch for this one, and I got Gage, okay, because when I started this Sipila, I had just finished this Zweig. The same designer, the same yarn weight, right? The pattern for this is slightly different. This one has the X's, which alters the gauge, but I had a bit of a clue as to what to expect. So I wasn't going in completely blind when I started this sweater, but I did not swatch because I hate swatching in the round. I hate swatching for color work. And I just thought I can risk it, I can take an educated guess, and I did, and it was educated enough that I got the results that I wanted. So, you know, you don't always have to swatch, but you just have to understand that you're taking a risk and be happy with whatever you end up with, right? So, but anyway, so this is what I'm going to be wearing tomorrow at Rhinebeck. And I need to make a mental note to weave in that hole that was on one of the sides. But anyway, so yay, Sipila. Switching gears a little bit, like I said, I'm going to show you my work, my one work in progress at the moment, but I'm going to wait for later. So I'm going to show you a little bit of spinning, because I did finish what I was spinning last episode, which was, if you recall, I got some Malabrigo Nube and their Baya Eléctrica colorway, which is like a neon pink sort of colorway, and I was spinning it together with some silk hankies from fibers. I'll put the name down here. I can't say the name. It's kind of like a Frenchy name, and I'll just spell it out and avoid embarrassment. Anyway, I did finish that. I did a traditional 3-ply yarn. I put 2 plies of the Merino by Malabrigo and 1 ply of the silk from the silk hankies, and this is what came out. It's not 100% even, but I'm pretty happy. It's pretty soft. Right. So it's not, doesn't feel ropey, so I think I didn't overspin it. And that is, it's about like 450 yards and a little bit over 3.5 ounces. So it's and it's mostly a fingering weight yarn. Some sections are a little bit thicker and some sections are a little bit thinner, but on average it's a pretty fingery sort of yarn. And this this is something that I also wanted to show you because it's going away tomorrow. And this is, I spun this for Connie of ChileKnitz. When I saw the Malabrigo roving, I immediately thought of Connie, and I am glad that I was able to finish this in time to give it to her when I see her tomorrow. So that's going away. I don't know what the project will be, but or if it's even used, but it's finished. And I had some leftover from the Nube, the Malabrigo, so I decided to do a 2-ply with the remainder of the Malabrigo, and this is what that came out as, right? And this is only 2 plies, so it's a little bit thinner. I don't know if this is going to focus on that at all, but it's a little bit thinner. It's again, it's not 100% even, but I'm pretty happy with the result. And this is about 170 yards. Like about 170 yards, a little over 1 ounce, and it's mostly lace weight with some sections that do not want to play along with the rest. But hey, it's, you know, it's handmade. It's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect, but it is meant to be done with love and intent. So yeah, so that's the other mini that I got out of that. So I wanted to show you that as well. And also this Wednesday, a couple of days ago, Lise from Trey Liz, not really Trey Liz, I'm not sure how to say it, but anyway, Lisa from Athens was or is still in New York City, and she had a trunk show at Knitty City, and of course I had to go and meet her. I know of her from Eleni and Phil from the International Virtual Knit Night on Facebook, and they have a group where they virtually get together a few times a week, where people from their computers, they connect and they have a project or whatever, and they spend a few hours knitting together around the world, which is pretty cool. So anyway, because of Eleni and Phil, I knew of Lise, and I wanted to go and meet her because I participated in one of her knit-alongs at the beginning of the year with my exploration station, and she's very sweet and very kind. And I went to Knitty City and I met her, and she was lovely, and I got one of her yarns, which is beautiful, and that's her label, Trey Liz, and Trey Liz, and this is what I got. It's called Lady Marmalade. It is a BFL, high twist BFL. It's very soft. It's lovely. And I don't have a project for it yet, but I think that the colors go well with what I got from Ray and Jake of the Dog Star Knits on Etsy and podcast, and I think that this might go well together with Jamie Lannister's underpants, and I might include them in a shawl probably a Westnitz shawl, maybe Vertices Unite. So we'll see. I don't know. It's a thought. Needs to marinate for a little bit, but I'm very happy. Very happy I got it. So that was the beginning of the Rhinebeck experience. I think Lise mentioned that there is going to be maybe like a knit night at String Thing Studio next Friday in Brooklyn. I might try and make my way over there. So I'll get to see her. I'll get to see her at Rhinebeck also, but if I can hang out with her more, why not? Right? And the next thing I'm going to show you is because I'm done with my sweaters and I'm just working on the mystery knit-along shawl. Anyway, my mom, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, my parents retired a few years ago, and they moved to rural Mexico where they live. They have a house and they're very happy there in their retirement. But my mom is coming next month. My brother invited her to go to the Holy Land in the Middle East, so I think they're going to Jerusalem and Israel for a few days. So she's coming to New York for a few days before she goes on her trip, and then she's coming back, and then from here she goes back to her home in Mexico. But anyway, I thought that I should make her a shawl, which I haven't even started. So it's just a couple of weeks before my mama gets here. I don't know that I'm going to be able to finish it before she goes to before she goes on her trip to Jerusalem. But maybe I can finish it by the time she comes back. Ideally, I think it would be nicer if I gave it to her before she goes on her trip. But anyway, the design that I'm thinking about, which seems simple enough, and hopefully, because it seems to be all garter stitch, fast enough, is the recent design by Joji Locatelli called Slow Curves. I'll post a picture here. And I have these silks that I want to use, but I only have 2 colors. So the Joji calls for 4 colors, so you can fade them. So I have 2 colors. I only have these 2 colors. One, these are Malabrigo Mora, 100% silk, and I have more than this. Obviously, I'm just showing you the colors. This is kind of a bare, undyed, maybe bleached silk. Gold natural, and I have this intense red that is called cereza, cherry. So I have these 2 colors that I would use. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to try to figure out a way of fading these 2 colors in the shawl instead of 4. It's not going to look as faded as the original, but I like the design and I like the idea using these, and I've had these for a while that I've been wanting to use for my mom, and I think this is the chance to do it. So we'll see. I might cast it on when the Rhinebeck craze fades out a little bit next week, and we'll see how my progress with the Knit along continues. Anyway, that is all that I have to show for today. I don't have anything else to show. I don't have anything else to say, except that I am going to talk about my progress on the mystery knit along. So if you don't want any spoilers, this is the end of the episode for you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for your comments, thanks for your likes, thanks for your subscriptions, and thanks for all the comments that I get on Instagram and sometimes on Ravelry. I try to respond to everything that comes my way, except when I don't figure out, if I'm not friends with you on Instagram, or if I don't follow you back, and you send me a message, sometimes it goes to a different place, and I am not savvy enough to figure out that someone is sending me a message, sometimes until a day or two later when I finally pay attention. So anyway, if you don't hear back from me immediately, you will eventually, I hope. But anyway, thank you. So yeah, I'm going to show you my progress on the texture time knit along. Last time, the last episode, I showed you the yarns that I was going to be using. I swatched. I'll put a picture here of my swatch, and I was pretty happy with the results. So I kept the colors that I told you last time, which were a Malabrigo in the Aniversario colorway, a ChileKnitz in the Imagination colorway, a Once Upon a Corgi on the Towers Over the Thames colorway, a Hue Loco in the Space Love colorway, I think, and a silk mohair blend from Amy of the Stranded Dye Works, and I can't remember the colorway right now. I'm pretty sure it's a David Bowie reference. I'll put the colorway down here. But anyway, because I'm not prepared. I didn't do my homework. But anyhow, you've been warned. I am fairly up to date on the clues. I am working on clue number 3 right now. So really, if you don't want to see spoilers, close the video. I will not take offense. But if you want to see spoilers, then here we go. This is what I have so far of the shawl. The purple moth shawl. I don't really know which one is, what side is the bottom or what side is the top. I'm assuming that this is the bottom of the shawl, but it could be the top. I don't know. He doesn't say. He doesn't tell you. Anyway, this is the back. Do not look at that mess. You start. This is clue number 1. Right. The center bit is clue number 1. The what he calls the squiggles, which look like wings, is clue number 2, and I am starting on clue number 3 at the moment. So clue number 1 is I chose the brioche section because I love working brioche, and I think last time I said that I did not mind the mystery aspect of a Westnitz, because every time I have worked a Westnitz pattern, I learn something new technique, a new method, something different, a new way of looking at knitting or something. I feel like every time I knit one of his patterns, I have taken a knitting class, and so far this has not been an exception to that. I chose the brioche. I'm fairly comfortable knitting brioche. I love it. I don't have a problem knitting it, so I chose that. If you didn't feel comfortable with brioche, you could have chosen a different version, which was kind of like a moss stitch, seed stitch sort of. I didn't pay attention because I wasn't doing that, but it's kind of like a moss stitchy sort of version. But anyway, but I had never done what he calls, and I've heard other people call, syncopated brioche, which is very interesting actually, because even though I'm very comfortable with brioche, it was not a sort of like potato chippy TV watching sort of thing. I had to pay attention. The thing that, and this is why it's appropriately called syncopated brioche. Syncopation is a term that is used in music, I believe, and especially jazz, and it means that and I'm sure Aaron will correct me if I'm wrong, because he is a musician and I'm sure that he is a very good one. I think that syncopation means that the notes do not necessarily follow a rhythm. I think that there is like an off-kilter thing, something, the rhythm doesn't fall where you expected, or it's different, or it's surprising. Anyway, when I do brioche, I fall into a rhythm. I start knitting it and I get into a rhythm, and several times I caught myself having to undo bits of rows, because the syncopation means that where you were knitting, then you had to be purling, or where you were purling, then you had to be knitting. And so I fell in the trap every time. Not every time, but anyway, and I'm sure there is one section where it's very clear that I was not supposed to be knitting where I was knitting or something, but I didn't realize it until too late, and I left it alone. And I can't find it now, but I'm sure you guys can see it somewhere. Anyway, that was the first section. Then the second section is Latvian braids. These are Latvian braids. I've never done Latvian braids before. It made me think of, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the Great British Bake Off or something like that. one of the contestants who's very famous now, her name is Nadia, and in one of the challenges she says, oh, I've seen this recipe in Mary Berry's book, but I thought, I'm not gonna make that, it looks too fiddly. And then that was the challenge. That is exactly how I felt about the Latvian braids. I've seen them before, and I've actually seen tutorials before, and I thought, oh, those are pretty, I'm never gonna make that, they're too fiddly. And ta-da, a whole bunch of Latvian braids on the shawl, and they are fiddly, but the result is pretty cool, I thought. So the second clue, as you work on both sides of the amoeba or whatever that thing was in the center, to make wings, you work the Latvian braids, you work sections of short rows with the mohair or the fuzzy, whatever fuzzy yarn you're using for your own particular version, or not. I think you could use just regular, you know, smooth wool for that section, but I used the mohair. I held the mohair double for the brioche section because when I did it the first time, it wasn't really showing. It was very weak. I thought it didn't really stand up to the other wools, so I doubled it up so that it could be more noticeable. The color would be more noticeable. So I used the double for clue number 2, but then I went back to single for clue number 2. I used the double for clue number 1, sorry, went back to single for clue number 2. And I'm okay, I like that. It's drapey and airy, and I'm okay with that. And then I have the clue number 3 dropped last night. So I wasn't done with my squiggles. I had to finish a couple of squiggles because the Sipila took precedence. But I finished that and I started clue number 3, and this is so far what I have. You are going to work, again, you're going to work this side, and then you go back and do the same thing on this side. So this is how much I have, and this is the Hue logo, and this is the Once Upon a Corgi. This is obviously the mohair is from the Stranded Dye Works. The braids are done with the Malabrigo. The Malabrigo is the purple, and the ChileKnitz. The ChileKnitz is the light blue, tealy kind of color. So, but yeah, so this is what I've done so far. Let me show you. This is what I have left. This is the main color, the Malabrigo. I have this much left. This is the ChileKnitz Imagination. How much I have left. This is the mohair. This trend. I'm sorry, my iPad did something weird and it stopped recording 5 minutes before I ended the video. I still wanted to show you the yarns. So that was the mohair that I got from Amy, and this is the Hue logo in the Outer Space Love, and this is the Once Upon a Corgi in the Towers Over the Thames. And those are the colors that I'm going to be using for clue 3. And the pattern says that we're going to be using probably most of that yarn. I still have about 90 grams of each. So we'll see. And I wanted to thank you again for watching and for coming back, and my apologies for whatever happened with the iPad at the end of the recording. It's kind of weird that I have to do a voiceover. Fortunately, I had recorded this section in for the Spanish podcast, so I could save the yarns to show you. But thank you so much, and happy knitting, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.